This is the Night Owls Disc Golf Podcast. I'm Shane.
I'm JP.
And I'm Ben.
And door_disc_golf. Night_owl_pod. Those are the Instagram handles for this. And then doordisc.com. You can find all your disc golf needs. Yeah, and even more stuff coming. And then YouTube, where this will be, and Casual Relief, which is our new podcast that Ben and two other, I was going to call them fine folks, but I don't know, would that be an appropriate description for them?
They're average.
Average folks. Okay, we'll say average folks.
You guys were saying hot guys on the old podcast.
Well,
hot guys with ice cold takes.
Yeah,
That's a hot take.
It's not for us. It's not for us to decide. And I said that a couple of times, that people need to weigh in on how they felt. And we got a poll going on the Spotify right now. So there's your plug to go listen to it and participate in our poll.
Yeah, and keep in mind, on Spotify as well, they now do video. So this and Casual Relief are both, you can see our faces. So jump on there. And if you use Spotify, you can actually stream the video now too. So we do load it directly to Spotify. This first one, we'll give a big apology. Not a big apology, just an apology. We had some popping from one of our gentlemen on Casual Relief on his mic. So excuse that, and we'll have it fixed for this next episode. Right, man?
Yeah, we got all the kinks figured out. So when we record in a couple days, we should have everything fixed for listening pleasure next week.
All right. So if you like, subscribe, download all these podcasts, they come right directly through this feed. So don't need to go find it anywhere else. It'll drop right in your box. And every Wednesday is what we're looking at.
Yeah. Every Wednesday is the tentative schedule. So make sure you listen. It's a good break in your day. You don't have to listen every week. It's not really current events. It's just some good banter back and forth with some buddies. And, hopefully you find entertainment in it, and it's kind of thought provoking and how you feel about kind of disc golf in general.
Perfect. So I'm getting a little echo in my headphones. Does everybody have their echo cancellation on?
As far as I know.
Perfect.
It looks like it's all good.
So, and adding one thing, we're going back to JP and I doing our Ridiculous Mondays. So you'll have JP and I, the originals, going back.
Yeah, you don't need to listen to me 3 times a week. Absolutely not.
And then, you'll have Ben, Mike, and Matt. We'll be doing the Wednesdays, and then we'll have Ben, myself, and JP for our Friday episode. So you'll have 3 episodes a week that you'll be able to listen to. So it's a lot of us. So I hope you like it. All right, boys, here we go. How do you feel about the XFL? And not the old rendition of XFL, the current rendition.
Full disclaimer.
Go back, yeah.
I was going to say, full disclaimer, I haven't really, I know it's back and I know it's doing its thing, but I haven't really watched it. I've just kind of heard a couple of the storylines of some cities are doing better than others in terms of attendance, and
St. Louis killed it.
Yeah, that's what I heard. But full disclaimer, I haven't really watched other than just like what I said. So
okay. Well, what's your feeling on it? Just like, how does it make you feel?
I think competition's good. There's only one monopoly that exists, and it's legal in the United States, and that's professional baseball. So I like competition within leagues. I think they're fun, and I think a lot of the things that have been implemented in a sense over the years in the NFL have come from other leagues. So I think that this is a good spot for the NFL to kind of view and see things with different rules, and also just see what fans are into, and with marketing and just how things have kind of evolved. I think the XFL is pretty good at that, just in terms of their digital marketing strategy.
Mm-hmm.
The Rock, who owns it, comes from WWE, and that's all just marketing and to market a product, right? So like he's pretty good at that.
What about you, JP?
Haven't to watch too many games, seen quite a few highlights here and there on ESPN, but like Ben said, I think not a direct competitor with the NFL, because like it's not going on during the same season or anything, but it's nice to have another league to look at and watch, and maybe get some rules ideas or whatever you can do to expand upon the league, I think, is kind of cool. I don't think they'll get as gimmicky, the NFL is XFL. Maybe they might implement, a couple of the they already had the 2-point, but like the 3-point and 4-point conversion, or, converting a fourth down or fourth, however many distance to, like, instead of having an onside kick, you get the ball back, that kind of thing. So there are some fun rules. And I think there's no kickoff. Is that right? Teams just start off with the ball on the 25 or something like that.
That's right. Yep.
Okay. So, I mean, safety wise, kind of nice, not having to, run down for a kickoff and butt heads with people and get in trouble. It's funny that like Ben mentioned, The Rock took over, he's owner, whereas Vince McMahon, back when the XFL started, he had the storylines going, he had the money going for like big hits and, like all these things and elaborate touchdown celebrations and right. Yeah. But what's crazy is the XFL had the original camera that went over the stadium, like on the strings,
right,
or whatever, and that's where the NFL got the idea for that. So they did borrow something, so that's pretty cool.
Right. Well, I'm glad you hit on that, because that was kind of the point I'm trying to make, is that the XFL has had 2 renditions so far. So the first rendition was this really over dramatized storylines, kind of take the WWE and put it on a football field. And that's what it was. That's exactly what it was. So they had like Stone Cold, Goldberg, The Rock, actually. I mean, all these people were players in it. And were they really players? Probably not. They were more just there for the storyline. But they did these things where they had cameras on field, mics and helmets. They had the cameras above. They had drones. They had, I mean, you name it. They fireworks. They did all this huge elaborate production, and it was awesome. Oh, well, hold on. It wasn't awesome. It was different. It was something fun to watch. It didn't last. Obviously, there was no people in the stands. They basically had to pay people to come to sit in the stands. They stopped it. The Rock bought it, and I think this is the 2nd or 3rd season of XFL. And what they have done is basically it's a glorified JUCO or college football is what it is. So this is a kind of a seeding ground for what they're trying to do, is make it a seeding ground for the NFL. So it's a bit more focused on football. The storylines aren't there. The goofy things happening aren't there. And they've taken the mics out of the helmets. They've taken the cameras off the field. They've done stuff like that. So let me get to where I'm going now with disc golf. Ben and I have had this conversation. Maybe you and JP and I have as well. But we had this conversation, I believe, sitting in Vegas, where we were saying, the PDGA needs one more tour or one more thing. And they've had it in the past, just not a competitor, but they need one more organization that's going to step up and say, I don't like what you're doing. I think this is better, and I'm putting my money behind it. So making the XPDGA.
Who could do that is the guy from Eagles Crossing. I think he has the money where he would be able to maybe start something up.
But I don't want the Vince McMahon's XFL. I want the Rock's XFL. I feel like he'd be closer to the Vince McMahon's XFL.
I guess, because he'd want to be very controlling and just be in the picture. Yeah,
that dude has probably also only thrown a disc like 15 times in his life too. The guy that owns Eagles Crossing.
True.
Right. I've only thrown probably like 15 good shots in my life, so I don't know if that has any bearing. But so you think, who is that person that's going to step in and challenge the PDGA? Just like the Live Tour and the PGA. I don't think the Pro Tour is that, because I think the Pro Tour is tied with the PDGA. We need someone that's going to step outside and say, like Casual Relief, you talked about some of the rules and stuff. Like, we need rangers on every hole. Let's put rangers on every hole or every 3 holes. And if you have an issue, call the ranger over. The ranger will make decision. There's no, there's no provisionals. There's no arguments. There's no nothing. If you lose a disc, this is how you're going to play it. And this is what the ranger says. So I think if something ever happened like that, it would only be good for the sport, because I think the PDGA would have to step up their game and hopefully not take the stance like the PGA says, where there's history here, there's things that we need. No, hopefully they step up their game and just make their game better. So
I think it's gonna just take somebody with a lot of capital, and I think it's also gonna take somebody that's willing to take on the risk of insurance, because I think the one thing that the PDGA just has such a chokehold on with everybody is that you use their insurance for every sanctioned event, and that's what people need and want. So if somebody can provide an alternative and they have cash and the ability to do that, that's my take.
Yep, I agree. And someone to say that tournament directors need latitude to perform these things and make money doing it, so that we have more quality tournament directors out there, because they can make a living out of it. So, and not saying that tournament directors aren't quality now. Yes, there are some that aren't, some that are. But I think it would give us the ability to take it more seriously.
I think the other hard part too is right now DGPT is using a lot of the top courses in the US and around the world. And as another tour, scheduling dates around the DGPT would be incredibly hard to pull players away to another tour. And unless I don't know if the other tour would be using some of the same venues or what the situations would be, but I feel like that would be incredibly hard to be like, okay, I'm going to skip this DGPT event and go to this other event at a course that might not have the prestige or whatever.
Yeah. Or the DGPT could utilize these events on this other tour, or on this other sanctioning platform like the PGA is. Whereas the PGA took the stance of, if whoever goes to the Live Tour, they are no longer going to be able to play on the PDGA Tour or PGA Tour.
They let people back on.
They did. Yeah, they did. But that was their initial stance.
Yeah, that was their initial stance. Yeah.
Yeah. As long as the PDGA does not do that, or the Pro Tour does not do that, why not jump between both of them and use both of the venues, or both of the tours, let's say, or platforms?
Are you guys familiar with the radius clause in live music?
No, I don't think I am.
So there are many festivals and large music venues, primarily festivals, have radius clauses in their contracts with artists that say that they cannot play at another venue for X amount of time within this amount of distance before and after playing at a festival. I could see in this situation that we're playing out that if the Pro Tour came in and they did not like the other tour, they could say, we're coming to Emporia. No event of this scale or this whatever can be held on Jones Supreme and Emporia Country Club for X amount of days, or no A tier can be held here, or whatever, and build that in. Just something to think about. Not saying that that's like gospel or a thing, but
doesn't that already happen with A tiers? You're only allowed to have A tiers within so much distance of each other, so they're not competing
on the same day and weekend. But like nothing like you could host an A tier at that place like the following weekend.
But I think that's the difference that I'm talking about. The Pro Tour is not the entity that this new sanctioning body would be competing with. It would be the PDGA.
Okay.
So the Pro Tour could jump on top of this other tour, and I'm pretty sure PGA would be more comparable to the Pro Tour rather than the PDGA. And then there's different tours that the PDGA works within. So seeing another PDGA come onto the scene to offer different rules, different variations. Obviously the basics would probably stay fairly similar, the things that are working. What it would do is take the stuff that maybe is adding a bit more confusion or some sticking points or
stress,
whatever it may be, stress, exactly, to the players.
Stress on the TVs.
Change those things. Well, exactly. And maybe adding more money, adding whatever it may be. So instead of taking this money and putting it in a coffer and having $14 million sitting somewhere, that they actually turn those things into purses and actually bring the money back into the sport rather than just sitting it there just in case, which I don't quite understand why the PDGA needs to have that type of reserve. But I don't know the ins and outs. I don't read the minutes of their meetings. I don't know what they use that money for and what they're liable for. But it seems like an excessive amount of money, in my humble opinion.
Well, they're not building any courses.
No. There are some funds out there. I mean, they do Edge. They support a lot of, so there's good things they do out there. I'm not trashing the PDGA. What I'm trying to say is that I think there just needs to be another tour out there, and the PDGA can exist exactly how it is, and building the sport, working with amateurs. And I think there could be another sanctioning body that works strictly with pros. And then they model their rules around getting the most money back to the players that they possibly could. And I think that would have a big effect. Just my thought. All right. With that being said, thrower, hanger, flipper. What'd you guys buy?
I bought a whole lot of nothing this week.
You wait for that Lone Star to get up on the site, huh?
Yeah, man. I saw some stuff you sent over.
I didn't send it to you, JP, but I was teasing him. I didn't send it to the group that you're in. I was teasing JP. No, it was you two. Yeah, you were there.
He's in there.
Yeah,
he's in that one. It was Caden that I didn't get it to. But yeah, so
poor Caden.
Yeah, I know. He's the one that's so excited, but he'll be there Sunday. He's actually going to cover because my son's going to state swimming, so We'll be down in Milwaukee. Yeah. So, what about you, JP? You buy anything?
I also didn't buy anything this week.
Shut your face. Seriously?
Seriously, I didn't buy anything.
Dang, this whole segment is just because of you.
Well, technically, I don't know what day. Was it last Thursday? It was last Thursday that the Clash order came in, so that came to my house. So, like,
yeah.
Maybe.
Technically, I bought that, though.
Yeah, you did, technically.
Actually, no one's bought it yet because I had to figure out how they wanted me to do the conversion and where to send the check. So, because it came straight from Sweden. Got it all figured
Finland.
out, so the check's going out tomorrow. Yeah. Finland. But we did get it all figured out, and the check will be going out tomorrow, which is Thursday, just so you know, Bobby. All right. So I bought some stuff. I bought 2 S-Line FDs, and I bought 2 C-Line Simon Lizotte FDs, the new ones. So I haven't thrown them, but they will be throwers. All right. So the preview for the show, we're going to go over WACO and our picks and what came out. We'll also do, I guess we'll talk about the return of the greats on the FPO side. The absence of Ricky we'll have a conversation about. And we'll talk a little bit about Matty O. I want to have a conversation about Matty O. And is there a disc in your bag that is a game definer? We'll also have a quick conversation about that. And Ben will have a random question, and I'll give a quick shop update. So let's get started on the WACO picks. So I have our WACO picks if you want to know them. So our WACO picks, JP, we'll go real quick. On the men's side, you picked P. McBee. Oh my goodness, I can't read my own. And then we had Newsom, and I think you picked it Marweed.
I thought you picked Chris Dickerson for sure.
Maybe it was Dickerson. Yeah, you have Dickerson.
I didn't pick Raven Newsom at all.
Okay, so you had Dickerson, Paul Macbeth, and then someone else. I don't remember who else it was.
Must have been Kyle Klein.
It was not Kyle Klein. I can guarantee you that. Heimberg. Oh, okay.
Heimberg. Yeah.
All right. And then, Ben, you had Corey Ellis, Ricky, and Emerson Keith. And then I had Matty O, Heimberg, and Macbeth. As far as our ladies' picks, I had Handley, Kat, Murch, not Allen. And then, it was Kat. No, it was Murch. And then Hanson, Ella. And then Ben, you had Tattar, Holland, and then Own, and then JP, you had Holland, Mandahano, and Missy. So we didn't do amazing, but it wasn't that bad. So
speak for yourself,
WACO,
man. My MPO picks were not great.
No, they weren't.
Considering one guy didn't even play.
Yeah, none of ours were honestly great. Klein, Hammes, and Radalin, in that order, is how they finished. And then just outside of that was Heimberg, and then Matty O came in 7th. I think Macbeth was tied at 7th as well, if I remember
13th.
rightly. Oh, he went to 13th. Jeez. Okay.
Yeah.
And then on the FPO side, we had Tattar, Hansen, and Scoggins, Miss Own Scoggins. So all of us knew that Tattar was going to perform. I was hesitant putting her on. She was my honorable mention, but I was hesitant putting her on our list. And then I had Ella Hansen, and what a heartbreaking loss for her. And basically it just came down to her misplay. She rolled her over, put it in the lake, and then proceeded to basically lose. And then Own Scoggins just played Own Scoggins. She just super consistent, didn't do anything super amazing stand out, didn't do anything horrible to mess up, her strokes and let everybody else kind of fall apart around her. So anything to say about the tournament, boys?
I watched it in my basement with a bunch of dudes. The Casual Relief guys and some other friends came over and we watched it on Saturday and Sunday. We both thought the course played really soft, just in terms of a lot of people shot really hot. So not typical of what we've seen out of WACO in the past with like big wins and things. I was in the camp that thought I was the only one in the basement that thought that Ella made the right decision to go for it, considering that she watched Haley throw with a tailwind right before she was gonna drive, but she just rolled it over, yeeted it, whatever you want to call it, and went long and went OB on the backside of that green. But I thought she made the right decision, and that's just what you got to live with. Last thing I'll say about WACO is I thought it was absolutely hilarious that Eric Oakley hit that guy and then just goes, well, that sucked, and just walked out the tee pad.
Yeah.
That was a fun
But shout out to Eric Oakley performing really well. That's probably the best that I have seen him perform in a long time that I can remember.
Yeah, absolutely.
I don't know how he finished. I think he might have
35th.
Yeah, he slipped down quite a bit, but But shout out to Brody Smith cashing 2 tournaments in a row. And that's pretty impressive. Because he's going to work his way up. So I would give a little nudge to Tyler Frickman. Top 10, maybe? So I guess the one thing that I want to say is that with the return of the greats of Tattar and Pierce, Tattar, were you surprised?
No. I mean, I knew she was going to play well. I think the only surprise was that I thought she was maybe a little bit ahead of the game on the rehab, because they mentioned a couple times she wasn't throwing full power shots, and she 100% can reach the green for an eagle look on 18, but all 3 rounds she just played it safe. So that was just the only surprise to me.
Right. What about you, JP? Anything outstanding to say about that?
No. Apart from round 2, Kristin didn't play spectacular. I mean, I think she finished over par round 2, but she's going to be back to normal. I mean, she's got the podium finish again, continuing the streak. And I think it's going to be hard to see her be outside of that for the foreseeable future. I mean, like Ben said, maybe she's not throwing full power yet, but even that is still above average for the field to awesome. So she's going to be contending. There's no doubt about it.
Right. Yeah, I don't see her being very far down from where she was, unless something goes wrong with the surgery she had and like those catastrophic issues like Eagle had or like Simon had, those type of things. Yes, of course, there's a possibility that she may not finish on the podium, but I don't see her. She has a game that is so well-rounded that I don't see her not finishing in the outside the top 5. I mean, ever. Not a hot take. That's not surprising to anybody that's listening, I'm sure. Let's switch gears. Let's talk about Paige Pierce. So where did Paige Pierce finish?
She finished, I believe, tied for 16th.
Mm-hmm.
Is where she ended up. Yeah. With like 4 other people.
And it doesn't seem that she was on her game at all. And even in an interview with Ultiworld, I had heard, or she had basically said that she was nervous. She didn't feel right. Nothing was clicking the way she wanted it to. I may be out of place by saying this, but I don't think the last season it looked that way at all. Like I think she's playing exactly where she was last season. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe a hot take. Maybe mean. But what do you think?
Yeah, she didn't have a ton of momentum coming off of last season, and there's always talk about Paige coming back from having a long time off. Like we've seen her come back. I think she took some time off before Champions Cup last year and ended up winning that, kind of resetting, getting her mind right. She took the, she was on a trip to Thailand and spent a long period of time over there. So I don't know how much disc golf she's been playing to get geared up to come back to WACO and get on tour. But a lot of people say, oh, she doesn't play that well at WACO. I mean, she hasn't finished on the podium since 2020. She won back-to-back in 2017, 2018, and then had a couple top 10 finishes. But who knows? Like, you have to come back at some time, and maybe it just wasn't her time to come back yet. Maybe she could have used a little more time to get things a little more fine-tuned.
What do you think, Ben? Anything to say about it?
I think just looking back at her comments at Maple Hill last year, like I think it's still just kind of lingering where she was just like, I'm not the best player in the world and like I'm okay with that, and then like it is what it is. Like I feel like, I don't know, I'm not like a psychologist or sports psychologist by any means, but it's just like, to me, she gives off this energy where it's just like, this is my job, like whatever happens like just doesn't seem like she just seems like very just content with whatever is happening, which to an extent can be good, if that you are just kind of like living in the moment and you're just kind of rolling with the punches of just trying to like do the best you can and play well. But to me, it's just like, what is her driving force at this point? Like, because everybody is, all the people, including us, are just reminding her that Kristin Tattar is not the best player in the world. So it's just like, to me, it just seems like she's just become content with that and has no desire to become number one anymore. That was just kind of the way that I looked at it, and just with her body language, she was in WACO was just kind of like rolling with it, and there wasn't much of just like this like bite or this hunger energy to like kind of go into attack mode.
Do you think that could be just a excuse for not performing well? Do you think that could be just the thing that she's saying to satisfy or satiate her lack of performance?
Yes, because I think that's also in like the same breath of Ricky in the World's comment. I think it's just kind of like the self-justification for things.
Right. I feel like
Paige
I'm being
might also
hard.
kind of be in the
No, go ahead.
I was just gonna say Paige might be in the chasing majors mindset more than just DGPT wins now at this point. At this point, it's just kind of like keeping her skills up to see where she competes against the top players, and then really focusing on trying to win those majors. I don't know.
Has she completed the Grand Slam? Has she won European Open, USW DGC, World she has, and then Champions Cup? Does she have a European Open?
I don't know. I
Don't know.
wouldn't be able to, but doing it in the same year, I'm 99% sure that has not happened.
I don't. Yeah, I know that that's not happened, but a career Grand Slam. I know she has Worlds, USWDGC, and now Champions Cup. But I just don't know if she's got a European Open.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
Which stay tuned to Casual Relief because we're going to talk about the Grand Slam and who's going to do it on this next episode.
Nice.
Or for this year, you're thinking?
No, just with the addition of Champions Cup, we're just going to kind of talk about who's going to do it, who's close, Macbeth's close, but who else who's in striking distance and all that good stuff. Okay. So there's your promo.
No spoilers. No spoilers.
No spoilers.
All right. So you brought up Ricky. So what about the absence of Ricky? I have two questions that go along with the absence of Ricky. So Ricky has been notably absent because of Lyme's disease flare-ups, and specifically, I believe it's in his wrist that he's having issues. With that, him missing the first Pro Tour events, do you think that his Player of the Year and Pro Tour Championship is basically out the window, no chance that he's going to repeat?
It's a good question. I don't know necessarily at this point without looking at how everything kind of shakes down. I know that like only X amount of things get factored into, your points or whatever. But I think we hear it a lot with this golfers is that like they just are like, oh, I'm in a routine, I'm in a rhythm right now, I'm feeling really good, or like I'm coming off of last week and I've corrected a lot of things with my game. And like the way that I interpreted some of the things that he was saying in interviews and other things is that like Ricky's just not doing anything disc golf related. He's obviously working out and trying to do what he can physically,
taking his ice baths,
doing all that good stuff. But I mean, like, it sounds like he's just not doing anything disc golf super related. Like he's not putting, he's not throwing, he's not doing anything. So I feel like it's hard to say if he's truly out, but I would lean towards he is, just solely because it's going to be harder for him to get into a rhythm when everybody's played. Like at this point now going into Austin, potentially if he doesn't play 3 events, 3 if you count anybody that played in the All-Star event or Memorial, like potentially 3 or 4 events before he's even got 1 under his belt and they're kind of cruising.
Mm-hmm. Well, JP?
Yeah, I don't know. It's hard to overcome 100 and some points with the leader right now. Not to say that he can catch fire. Texas State's coming up. He always plays well at Texas State's. This Open at Austin, we'll see if he actually shows up. He's on scheduling. He's looking optimistic to come to it. But yeah, health is a crazy thing. You think you're feeling good one day, all of a sudden, he has the flare up another day. He could be down and out. You just never know. And we've seen him have like really great finishes last year, obviously, and then not so great finishes. So if he puts a string together of good finishes, potentially he could get up into the top 10. But then he's got those other finishes where, some other people that we may not even be thinking of, like Kevin Jones has strung together 2 top 5 finishes these last 2. And like, he's a name that, it's kind of hung around like double digits, 15, 16, 17, that kind of area, where now we're seeing some of these people that we don't normally see moving up the ranks a little bit. It's gonna be hard to overturn.
Yeah. And we'll think about Matty O. We'll jump into that as well as we're talking about this, but Matty O has a 8th and 7th place finish. And he is sitting in, I think, 6th place. So he's just outside of top 5 for the Pro Tour's points. And he's someone that you would never assume, but so Kevin Jones is also one of those people you would never assume. But Kevin Jones has been putting it together this year. I mean, he is throwing in rounds that when you think of Kevin Jones, this is the Kevin Jones that you hope to see. In your mind, you think of pro discus Kevin Jones, and he's kind of getting back to that. And are you familiar with what that is, Ben? When I say pro discus? Okay.
Yes.
I just want to make sure.
Yes.
Because I'm not being insulting. That was pre you actually playing the game, if I remember rightly, correct?
At a decently serious level, right? Like
Okay.
played disc golf before this, but just like with buddies and taking a Innova Cheetah and an Innova DX Shark and just whipping it and without any regard. But
Yeah. Good. Okay. So I wasn't too far off then.
no.
So when you talk about these individuals, and I mean, even Nico LaCastro, I'm not sure exactly where he finished up, like 17th or something like that. So, I mean, he's coming back on tour and actually playing pretty darn well. So, and when Nico is on, he can be a killer. He can be a savage, and not in the way that we think of Nico as a savage, like truly as a savage as a player. Sorry, I had to take that jab.
Now he's never going to come on. Way to go.
I know. I did chat with him at Vegas, and he said he was willing to, but I got to stop making these snide remarks. But they're just all in fun. Hopefully he would take it too. By the way, I rewatched the Calvin clip where he's holding the thing. I love Nico's reaction to that. Come on, Calvin. Like, you're going to do that to me? You, of all people, pull the clock on me?
How about the referee shirt? That was something else too. That was pretty sweet.
Beautiful. I loved. So my son we were at I don't remember where we were at. It was one of the swim meets he was at. And 3 folks walk in, and he goes, and there was one wearing like a striped, and this person who I'm not going to identify their gender because it was, I wouldn't not assume this is the type of person that walked in and had a referee shirt on. And Malachi goes, "Hey, is she a referee?" And she like turns around and looks, or this person turns around and looks at him. And I'm like, buddy, you can't just say stuff like that. She probably really likes that shirt. And she like kind of huffs and like walks away. And I was like, oh. But my son's 8, so it is what it is. But that's what I feel like would have happened with Nico too. And I think that's what everybody thought about Nico. Like, why is he a ref? Is he like going to start gauging his own times and, checking people's foot marks? And so back to Matty O. Matty O, do you think that Matty O will win this year on an elite or pro tour stop? And if so, why? Or if not, why not? This is a lot of thought from you two.
Matty O's just such a rootable, like he's just so. You just root for him. He's just a likable guy. You just root for him, right? Like, so I want him to win in like the worst way because I think it would be the greatest winner circle the Disc Golf Pro Tour has ever seen. Because everything he says is so funny and such a quote, and he's just such a likable guy that like I said, greatest winner circle ever. Can he do it? I don't know. My thought process on why he's playing well is because I went and rewatched On Tour a while ago, maybe a couple weeks ago, and the one with Matty O, basically he's in the mindset now of he's probably got one contract left, like one really good contract where he's playing at an elite level on the Pro Tour before he transitions into the Kale Club and playing the MP40 circuit. So he's just like in the mindset.
All the cool guys play, by the way.
It is. But he's just in the mindset of like he's just going for it. Like he wants to have as much fun as possible. He just wants to play the best golf he can. So I think that's why we're seeing this version of Matty O, of where he's just crushing it as far as like his ratings really high, probably at an all-time high for him. He's finishing really well. He's just kind of doing all the right things that he can do while he still can do it at this level. So that's my reasoning for why I think he's doing it this way. But anything can happen on the Pro Tour. You never know.
So that's a yes.
I think he can. Will he? I don't know. I can't say.
You can't take this come on.
No, because I befriended Matty O and gave him a koozie, and it was like I made his
so your answer
day.
Is no?
No, I don't think he's going to, but I think he can. Just let me be non-committal, please.
Nope. All right, JP.
I'm rooting for him, but I don't think he will. I think he lives in this. We talk about complacency sometimes, and I don't know. He's not complacent. but he lives in a realm where he's just content with being where he's at, kind of. Like, yes, I think it would be outstanding for him to move up, but it's not killing him inside to finish like in the top 10, right? I don't know. Maybe it is. He goes out and he crushes these, smaller tournaments, these B tiers, A tiers, back home. And maybe that's enough for him. Or you just like being the well-liked guy on tour, like everybody roots for him, like Ben says.
Mm-hmm.
Now, on an Elite Series level, maybe not. Silver Series, absolutely, I think he'll win. If given the right course, right conditions, I think he can win a Silver Series this year. That's what I'm thinking.
Okay.
If Joel Freeman can win a Silver Series, bet you Matty O can. Matty.
For sure. Yeah. I like that take, JP, but I'm going to go out on a limb and say that Matty O will take down one this year. I don't know which one. And I think he is lacking a lot of tools, but I just have this feeling. It's a gut feeling with the way that he's playing, the way that he's staying up at the top. Seems to be healthy. He seems to be happy. Everything's kind of working in his favor this year. And a man with that type of experience and this type of momentum is only going to get better. So I think that he will take one down, but maybe not, but at least he'll be podium.
D-Glow. He plays well at D-Glow, and I think he could hit the momentum when D-Glow comes around, and he's played Toboggan for a decade. That he could be,
at least.
Yeah. So that could be one where he could find himself in a good spot.
Yeah. Matty, he doesn't have the elite distance of a lot of players, but I think if he plays at a course where there's not a lot of separation score-wise that can keep everybody close, he's got a really good chance.
Right. And I think D-Glow is probably a good one. I would even say Ledgestone, he could push up into there because you still got black in there. You got Northwoods black in there, and that is a leveler. But if you can hit lines and throw the disc straight, which is what Matty O can do, you're playing well. But it's hard with people like Calvin who can throw straight 450 feet
Mm-hmm.
and the disc just lands flat. Like it's a new game. It's a new game with some of these upper level individuals, but hopefully those are the days where they're off and he's on. So I'm rooting for you, Matty O. Let's see if you can pull one down this year. All right. The last one I have, is there a disc in your bag that is game defining?
Not a specific mold, but a specific speed or specific flight numbers or flight kind of characteristics. I would say, well, for me, like it's the Lariat, so it's right around that kind of that flight path, and that kind of speed is very much a utility for me, in that I can kind of shot shape it and throw it out with a forehand, throw it with a backhand, it's kind of a workhorse in that I can get it to do a lot of different things, but it's not, that mold specifically is not, that for me. But
okay, what do you think,
JP? Man, I think for me, it's like kind of the approach disc mold, or I beg a zone, Crystal Flex Zone.
Not a Zone OS.
Are you excited about the Zone OS?
Yeah, no, too much for me. I want one, but it won't make the bag. It'd just be a fun toy to have,
like a tilt.
We did. Yeah, we didn't do
exactly.
any pre-orders for them. Sadly, I didn't bring any in, just because I felt like it's going to be one of those novel discs. We'll probably sell, 50% of what we have, and then they'll just sit once everybody throws them and they realize they're useless. Yeah. I mean, it's like a Justice. You have a Justice or a Gator, and you buy one, and you don't lose them just because you never put them into that situation. You never trust them that much. The only time you throw them is when there's a raging headwind or you need to get around a corner. So go ahead. So the Zone is your...
Yeah. It's, it's a disc that I do like to rely on, but if I lose it, I have a ton more. So I'm not, or there's other discs I've used. Like I could easily use like an overstable Envy for the same thing, or power down on a overstable 5-speed, you know, just to kind of get that. But the thing that's unique about the Crystal Flex is it just stops, you know. I guess like a Jawbreaker would be the same thing, you know. It's not as flexy, but it does just kind of stop. It doesn't roll away. I don't know if it's a game changer or game defying disc in my bag, but I'd be kind of sad without it.
Okay. So the scenario I put you guys in is you're out on the course, you're in a tournament round, you're not close to any backups, and you lose that disc, that lariat, that zone. How is that truly going to affect your round?
For me, I think it's not really going to change a whole lot because, I mean, I can go to a slower speed. For me, like the Frio is pretty similar in flight, but it's just a little bit slower. So I could either crank on it or just accept, kind of less distance, or I could power down something a little bit faster to get that same flight shape. So it's not going to be like a round definer or a round ruiner. I think that I have things in my bag that can, follow the same flight path, but it's just a decision of extra power on something slower or kind of slowing down the power on something faster. So
what do you think, JP? Would that do for you?
I will say that it is the one disc that I do forehand the most is the zone. So that would be a bit of a game changer for me. It just sits comfortably in my hand, and I don't forehand a ton. I would rather throw a turnover shot or something, but if I have to throw a decent forehand, that's the disc I'd pick. I just have trouble fitting like a fairway driver, a high speed driver in my hand. Just I don't like the feel of it. I rather just throw the zone forehand. So yeah, I mean, it wouldn't totally wreck my round if I lose it, just because I know I can replace it. But it means something. It's like the longest disc I've had in my bag, probably outside of like an FD or something like that. So just the sentiment of having it and knowing that it's the longest disc that's been in my bag would be kind of a bummer.
Sure. So I have been in that situation where I have relied on a disc because I'm just throwing it that well. So I had a red ballista that I relied on for every distance shot that I had because I can make the disc do anything I wanted. And when I had it in my hand, I knew exactly where it was going. It was a game defining disc for me. I did not have another driver in my bag that worked as that ballista did. And I even tried to replace it. This was pre West Side Latitude 64 changing their flight numbers. This disc was from, and I was never able to really find another one. I found one more that was orange, and then I immediately lost it as I was throwing it. But that red one, I still have it. It's still downstairs. But I realized that I was leaning on that disc for basically everything. And if I lost that disc, I was in trouble. So I purposefully took that ballista out of my bag. So I think even when we started this podcast, I was throwing the ballista still. And I decided, you know what, it's too much for me. And it was stupid because the disc flies very, very well for me, still does. But I took it out of my bag because I was so dependent on that disc that I cannot replace, that I was like, you know what, I need to start working something else. I need to figure something else out. So now I'm to a point where I can just go grab a disc off the shelf and I can throw it and it's no issue. I know the discs that work for me. But yes, I have lost that disc in water and I retrieved it afterwards, but during the round I couldn't get it, and it made a huge difference in my game because the only thing I had was much more stable or much less stable, and I couldn't play. So mentally it messed with me, so then every other part of my game started going out. So my suggestion is never let a disc define your game, or never let a disc define your round either. Make sure that whatever discs you have in your bag You can have a go-to, but make sure you have something stacked right behind it that's just as good, or another disc or another mold that you can throw and rely on the same way.
You hear that, folks? You need to bag 17 judges. So if you lose one, you've got 16 more ready to go.
Well, 3 is enough. 3 is enough.
Shane's got a backpack, and then his cart is just full of judges.
Exactly. And in the backpack, there's only 3 other discs. So, no, I actually play a very simple game. Now, a lot of stuff rolls in and out of my bag, but for the most part, I have one mold and I layer them for each one, and I try to do the best I can to get an overstable, understable. And some discs you can do that, some discs you don't. But for the most part, I mean, maybe have 5 molds in my bag that I actually throw, and then the rest are in there just to fill space or that I'm testing out off the shelf. So I keep it very, very simple. We need to do a bag update for this as well. So, Ben, at this point, I'm going to give the reins to you, and you're going to ask us some fun questions.
All right. I just have one tonight.
All right.
My random question is, what is one smell that gives you a memory, either good or bad, that is like triggering? Like you smell that smell, and then it just takes you back to whatever that is. Good or bad?
I got one immediately. How about you?
I can't think of anything right now.
All right, I'll go. The one smell that I have that if I smell it, it brings back. So most of you know that I do not drink, and if I did, like I'm one of those like Krister drinkers. Like I might have a drink once or twice a year. I cannot stand the smell of sour apple pucker or Goldschlager. Those 2 drinks, if I smell them, I honestly get a bit nauseous, and I just can't handle them. I can't handle them at all. For the younger people, that's alcoholic beverages, and I had some really rough nights with those. Sour apple pucker, actually, my sister, the very first time I ever drank, my sister and her husband then got me just ridiculously drunk, and I spent quite a while evacuating my body of everything that was in it, and then woke up with a headache that I don't know if I've ever had a headache comparable. And Goldschlager was very similar, except the smell coming out is exactly the same as going in, and that's not awesome. So that's mine.
Does that correlate over to like green apple, like the suckers and Jolly Ranchers and everything too, or can you do those?
Nope, just the liqueur. So there is a flavoring, a sour apple flavoring that we used in the bakery for a little bit that I couldn't be around. I couldn't handle it because it is a liqueur based flavoring. There was a short time when that was there, but that's it. That was it.
Right on.
So it doesn't translate. I love apples. I love sour apple stuff. I mean, all that stuff. But when it has that ethanol flavor, the alcohol flavor behind it, nope.
Still thinking of one, JP?
No, I got one now.
Okay.
Like kind of, mine would be like hazelnut, like the smell of hazelnut. When I worked at restaurant Sister Bay Cafe, we had hazelnut liqueur that we would mix in. We'd have hazelnut butter, and so we'd mix it in, make the hazelnut butter, and then it would always go on our cardamom waffles that we have. We have these heart-shaped cardamom waffles with a little heart-shaped. So that's another smell. Cardamom kind of reminds me of that as well. So it just brings me back to working in the restaurant a little bit. I don't like the flavor of hazelnut, but the smell is okay to me. And then, like Shane said, with alcohol, man, I remember this time in college, my roommate and I, we were hanging out with these 2 girls, and we bought at least a case, or maybe it was more than a case, of Mike's Hard Lemonade, or smeared off ice at the time. I remember I downed half a case, at least. And I ended up throwing up all morning, the next morning, and probably halfway through the night as well. And I was in bed for like a day and a half, and I will never drink those ever again. Like the smell of that, like lemon, like the flavor is just nasty now when I think about it too. Because like coming up, it's all fizzy and like like it rots your throat. You like get gut rot from it. Never again will I drink anything like that.
That's why getting iced is a punishment now.
Yep.
We used to voluntarily buy that stuff.
Oh my God. I don't know how at the time it was great. I was like, oh yeah, these go down so easy. And then I was like, nope, coming up. Not so great.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And they burn a bit too.
Yes. Yeah.
All right, Ben, how about you?
All right, I guess, well, I got two, so I'll just kind of round out the alcohol of the trio. In college, I got sick off of Jack Daniel's Tennessee Honey, so can't do that anymore. But the one that like always just takes me back is this like artificial coffee smell. So I had my buddies in college that like they lived together, and then I lived with some other people, but like the buddies I hung out with the most, like in their sweaty bachelor guy college apartment, had like a Scentsy that had like fake, like that it was like coffee scented, but it was like a fake coffee scent. So it just takes me back to like that time of just like zero responsibilities, being 19 and 20, just living like with just guys living in this apartment where, you know, we were just living kind of our best life and playing video games and hanging out and drinking beers, and, you know, didn't have like the real responsibilities of life yet. So it's just kind of like just fond memories of looking back of like our biggest problems were who's ordering pizza and who's, you know, paying for whatever we got going on, you know. So
man, wouldn't that be nice to live that way again? Just like figuring out when you need to actually start your homework or, you know, whatever paper you have to do just to make sure you have it done by the time the class starts. And that was your biggest issue. That was it. That was it. Because usually you had a meal plan, so you didn't have to worry about food. It was great. It was awesome.
I will say I don't miss the Sunday scaries, like where you're just like Friday and Saturday you're just hanging out with your friends, and then all of Sunday you're just like in the library trying to do all the homework that if you would have just spaced it out and did like an hour on like Saturday, you would have been in much better shape. But no, don't miss that.
That was the way I worked best. Procrastination leads to efficiency, Ben.
Yeah, I can't tell you how many nights I was in our computer lab till 2 a.m. just working on stupid papers. But it wouldn't be just me. There'd be like at least 5-6 other people in the computer labs, like all getting stuff done. I'm like, you guys too, huh? All right.
Yeah. Everybody drinking Red Bulls. Yeah. I do miss those days. And I miss the fact that like you just had a built-in group of your peers. And for the most part, you all saw the same way. Like you thought the same way. I mean, it was just awesome. So let's get into some shop updates. So DoorDish.com. Clash is in. So we do have 10 of each. The honeys, the salt, the berry, and the, oh my goodness, what's the fourth one?
Cookie.
And the cookie. And the cookie feels fantastic. It was one of the best feeling discs I've had. And it's in that realm of the FD as far as numbers go. But man,
it's a new FD, right?
Yeah, but it feels better than the FD. It's like everything is smooth and clean, and I'm super excited about it. So that will be one that I will purchase at one point, but they are on the site ready to go. Lone Star has landed. So Lone Star disc is in shop. I haven't had time, unfortunately, to put them in the computer for you to purchase them, but I will have them in for sure Friday. I'm hoping to carve out some time tomorrow, but for sure Friday I'm in the shop all day. So I'll have them up on the site Friday, and then, which will be today for the people that are listening. And then I think that's about it. But yeah, I got another bin in. So we're in the process of kind of renovating and organizing and doing all that stuff so that when summer hits and you guys are up in Door County or at the shop, if you guys decide to play one of our flex starts or whatever it may be, and for all the tournaments that we may have run with Ben down in Green Bay, I basically have a mobile shop. I can just grab some containers, and I'm not taking anything out of the shop that people are sitting there looking through the bins. I have some set of bins that I can just take to tournaments. So pretty happy about that. But outside of that, there's really not much else other than bag patches are on the way. They should be here. We're hoping about 2 weeks. I did have a sample. Did not bring it to show, but they are rubber patches that have Velcro, and then there's adhesive as well. So we'll throw some of those on hats. We'll do things like that. So we are having those come in, and they will be actually fairly affordable, believe it or not. So they'll be in that $4 to $6 range as far as purchasing goes. So I'm super, super excited about it. So as soon as we get those in, we'll let you know, and I'll bring some on so you can see them on the camera here. Just remember, go online and look at YouTube and find us, DoorDisc Golf. That's where you'll see Casual Relief. You'll see this podcast here. And every once in a while, we'll post some disc golf videos as well. So once Joe is back in town, we're going to start making some more disc golf videos this summer. So there's going to be a lot of content coming out. And for the 45 subscribers, we thank you. Get on there and smash that follow. That'd be awesome. Appreciate it very much if you can. And then, Ben, you look like you got one thing to say.
By the time this comes out, Clash at the Creek, presented by Clash Discs, and where you could get a cookie or a berry or a salt, might be full. There's only about 10 spots left. So if there's any spots left, jump on that. That's a great way to guarantee you could get a Clash disc if you're an AIM,
That's right.
Of course.
And we have confirmed Zing Mini. We will have a Zing Mini as part of the player pack now too, with the Clash at the Creek logo on it. So got that all arranged and everything's good. So thanks, Ben. And then JP.
What's up? We have something very real happening.
I do. Foot picks?
No, not yet.
Oh,
but
okay.
we have started I actually started a Patreon for the podcast for our network. It's called the OnlyFans for Good Night Owls Disc Golf Podcast. We'll make it work for Casual Relief as well. The only thing that we or whoever will come up with is pricing and content that we want to put on it, and hopefully we can get that nailed down pretty soon. Got to gather some ideas. So it is actually in the works, like actually going to happen.
I saw the page, so
I teased it out on Instagram, and then what else can I say? We hit 20,000 total plays, which is remarkable. I think that happened the other day, and I'm going to do a giveaway on Instagram for that.
Perfect.
So be on the lookout for that. It won't be as big as like the mystery box that we gave away at 10,000, but it'll definitely be a couple discs. So,
is it an early released foot pick? Can that be
There
included?
you go.
Sure, why not? I will give you an early release foot pick if you really want it.
Polaroid.
I'll have to go buy a camera.
Take that thing.
Yeah.
My son has one of those. I think they're called fun films or something like that, where it's a Polaroid.
Yeah.
So
you know what's crazy
I'll let you
is
borrow it.
The new Polaroid cameras, the old Polaroid cameras was like, you had to buy like the extra flash thing and like set it on top and like it would flip up and the film would pop up. Those new Polaroid cameras are like $100 and some bucks. I'm like, what?
They are nuts.
The film's got to be, I don't even know. I haven't looked at it, but I was just like,
they're like $13 for 5 pictures. It's like $13 for 3 packs of 5. So it's like 15, but it's almost $1 a picture.
Jeez.
Can you still buy a disposable camera?
Yes, you can. Yep. I don't know where you get them developed, but you can still buy the disposable camera. Yeah. So, yeah.
I think you see them at weddings all the time. So they got to go somewhere.
Oh, do you see them at weddings still? Is that still a thing?
That was a thing when we were getting married. I got married in September of 2021, and that was kind of like a thing on like all the wedding blogs, is that like you give like your wedding party and a disposable camera, and then you like throw them on like the tables, and then you just get them developed, and then you've kind of got like this POV of what people were doing, and if they're having a good time and whatnot.
I could imagine the absolutely absurd and indecent pictures that would have gone on, like, especially at my wedding, because we were just like fresh out of college and I was still working at the university. And I mean, it was a small wedding, but holy moly, how bad those pictures would have been, because we left the wedding like, I don't know, probably 10 o'clock. and it went on till about 2 a.m. We were gone. The party still continued. We had like kegs in there, everything. We were gone, and yeah, the party continued. So, from what I understand, like 2, 3 a.m, it still went on. So, good for them. Yeah, I think outside of that, awesome. I'm really glad the OnlyFans is actually starting. So, OnlyFans on Patreon. So it's what's OnlyFans.
If you go to Patreon, it'll be OnlyFans and then hyphen Night Owls Disc Golf. It's not published yet because I do not have any content or payment specified yet. So once we get something hammered away, I'll let everybody know, and yeah, then it'll go live.
Yep. And I think what we can do is we can figure out some sort of codes or discounts or something like that we can throw out there. So we'll figure something out. We'll get some tier levels going, and then we'll get it active. So I don't think it'll take another year. Hopefully just maybe a couple more weeks, and we'll get it up there. And what we'll do with that, those monies, is hopefully get everybody good mics, good headphones, and something that won't allow the popping and gains. So just bring you better audio quality.
Working on it. We got it.
Yeah.
All right. Well, outside of that,
Tech Master Matt.
Yeah, exactly. Well, we'll send all that stuff to him. We'll get him the soundboard and all that stuff so he can really control those things. So, all right, boys. Anything else to say?
Keep on dreaming. I think that's actually somebody else's, but
hey, well, why not? JP, anything? I mean,
no, just leave us a nice review or rating wherever you are, and make sure to like, subscribe, and share us whenever possible.
All right. Well, then I think outside of that, keep it subpar. Peace.